Okay, we're coming in 30 seconds. Brighter days, brighter days. Though it seems distant, know the world will change. Brighter days, brighter days, brighter days. The world will change. Brighter days, brighter days, brighter days. The world will change. Yes, brighter days are here. That's from Emily Sande, one of her most recent. You're tuning to Breakfast in Bed here on Smooth 98.1, where we love music and we love life. Right now, it's Breakfast in Bed. And of course, this is the Soul Food Conversation, which is all about your health and wellness. We are live on YouTube, so go right there to search and stream. It is youtube.com/smooth91FM Lagos. And then you can save it, also subscribe and click on the notification bell so that you do not miss out anytime we go live. Also, you can follow us across all social media platforms at Smooth91FM on Twitter, Smooth91 on Instagram. Before now, I played you something very interesting that came from Tari Gitari. That one was titled Noise. And if you listened, if you follow the lyrics of that song, you'll find it very interesting and intriguing. And of course, she was talking about the reality of noise pollution in Nigeria, especially in Lagos, where everywhere you turn, somebody is shouting and blurring one thing or the other in your ears. Even the students that are supposed to be learning in a quiet environment, they cannot, because there are some people who are making noise, be it the one coming from your generator, be it the one coming from the churches, be it the one coming from those people that are peddling things on the streets. Everywhere you turn, noise everywhere. So that's why we're talking about the theme for this year's World Hearing Day, saying that to hear for life, you have to listen with care. And I already have my guest joining me. She is a consultant ENT surgeon, that's ear, nose, and throat. Her name is Dr. Saadat Yahaya. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Ma.
Thank you so much for joining me this early Saturday morning. I really do appreciate it. So before we start the conversation, I just want to lay quick data and why we decided to talk about this. Now, according to the World Health Organization, it is said that by 2050, well, if we are still alive by 2050, that nearly 2.5 billion people are projected to have some degree of hearing loss, and at least 700 million will require hearing rehabilitation. Now, out of that number, it is said that over 1 billion young adults are at risk of permanent avoidable hearing loss due to unsafe listening practices. So that is one of the reasons we're talking about this, because the young adults are more prone to this because of what they listen to, the volume at which they listen to things. And that begs the question, first off, let's lay the background for this, and just to give the easy definition, how do you define hearing loss? Are you there?
Hello.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I was asking to define, that you should please help us define hearing loss for the sake of this conversation.
Okay. You know, talking like
You said, are you speaking? Because I can't hear you.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Can you
Hello?
hear me? Yes, I can hear you. That's the problem with Zoom.
Breaking, that's the thing.
Okay, so I was asking you to define hearing loss.
Hearing loss will just simply be defined by, Hello.
Yes, I am here, Dr. Saadat.
Okay.
Okay, we seem to have a bit of a network issue. We'll try and quickly fix that. So do not even think of changing the dial, because we have more lined up for you so that you can be a part of this conversation. Don't forget that you can also send your WhatsApp message to 0809-444-0981. This is Smooth 98.1.
98.1. Love music, love life.
Dr. Saadat, are you there? Hello, Dr.
Hello.
Saadat. I can't hear you. I think the network is really, really bad.
Oh, oh.
I mean, I could, when we were on air, I could hear you at some point. Then later on, it was like you were not hearing me.
But are you hearing me now?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so this is better. So we'll go on in 1 minute plus, and then hopefully nothing happens in the course of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I hate network issues.
This is a woman's world.
Smooth 98.1 presents a special International Women's Day on Soul Sisters. Celebrate every day. The spotlight is set on you. The world
Oh my dear.
from the first to the next groundbreaking, the achievement and the next make only a story away. Soul Sisters on Smooth 98.1 this Tuesday, the 8th of March 2022 from 11 a.m. What we're going to do right now is take you way back into time. Wait, back to timeless music.
Let's get it on.
With Motown greatest hits from as far back as the 70s. Marvin Gaye, The Temptations, Gloria Gaynor.
Okay, we're coming back in soon.
Yes.
So we're coming back in. Did you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. All right, we're coming back in.
Motown Monday, every Monday.
And now we're about to have that smooth conversation. Forget the network. We have tried to sort it out. That's the problem with technology. But hey, we are trying to give you the best here on Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. We're talking about hearing loss and how and why you should also care for your ears. I did give you a quick statistics that according to the World Health Organization, by 2050, if we are still alive by then, going by all that is happening in the world, it said that about 2.5 billion people are projected to have some degree of hearing loss, and at least 700 million people will require rehabilitation. Now, out of that number, 1 billion young adults will have avoidable permanent hearing loss due to unsafe listening practice. My guest is Dr. Saadat Yahaya, and she's joining me via Zoom. And my name is Oluwaseun. So thank you, Dr. Saadat. Can you please take again the definition of hearing loss?
Yes, we just simply say hearing loss is just impairment of hearing and its severity, which will range from either from mild to severe or to profound hearing loss. So it's just anything, of course, that when you have impaired hearing, that's just simply what we call hearing loss.
All right, then.
Of.
So one very interesting one out of what the World Health Organization is focusing on is safe listening practice. I am very curious about that. And also the reason they said first of the theme is to listen, to hear for life, you have to listen with care. Now, what does it mean to have safe listening practices?
Yeah, to have a safe listening practice means that everybody has to be aware of what are the causes of this hearing loss. And of course, we have to start down from the local community, the target groups, companies, event centers, things that we need to do to practice as an individual, as a group, as a community, that will actually prevent this loss of hearing. And that's what is, what we're trying, this year's theme or maybe, I mean, this year's thing is talking about, so that when we are targeting the concerned groups, we can hear forever. And that's why I say, I mean, you need to listen forever. I mean, you have to take care of your listening. So these are meant for our target groups.
Okay, but first let's start with the individual, since we are the ones listening right now. What amount of noise or sound should be exposed to daily, and for how long before you start to worry that this can predispose you to long-term hearing loss?
You know, as a personal, maybe personally, if we were to start with, is written, I mean, World Health Organization, in 2016 alone, we have 1.5 billion smart users were sold globally in the world. And that was as of that 2016 was all maybe half of the world that were using smartphone. But by 2020, that actually penetrated people using smartphone, at least 78% of the world, with annual sales of over 1 billion devices. And it's projected that global sales of smartphone will continue to increase. And that's where majorly our target groups are those using mobile phone and smartphones. And then the problem we're actually having is most of these gadgets that we're using, they are not, most of their noise are above the hearing threshold of 85 degrees decibel. They are around 85 to like 136, which is already above the hearing threshold. So that's why we're actually targeting these individual, people using smartphone, people using mobile phones, people at event centers, and then the noise pollution that is actually around. And that's why this year is actually targeted at them, because most of the noise are already above the normal hearing threshold. And that's why our concern is on these people. And of course, the problem of most of the personal problem that happens with this person is that, you know, most of these are gadgets. It's already becoming a little habit for them. People just, they listen to their, music at their spot above 80 decibel, and they keep it high up. Do you understand? Then also the time people are spending on this smartphone, on these mobile devices, most people exceed even 40 hours, which is already, and you're only allowed even use of maybe like earpiece, maybe just for 1 hour in 24 hours. And they have exceeded 40 hours. And then reduce, you know, most people are like, they're always on their earpiece, they're always on their smartphone. Then most of the phones have larger gigabyte that they're able to take a lot of sound. So that makes people stay more on their smartphone and actually even damaging and exposing their head to most of these gadgets. And that's why we have to actually now stay more as a personally trying to educate our people to use less of this smartphone. The duration at which they're using it should actually be reduced. The level of sound at which they're actually using.
Okay, so Dr. Yahaya, you mentioned that the amount of, or the sound, the level you should be exposed to should be 85 decibels, right? Are you there?
That level.
I didn't get what you said last.
I said having periodic hearing screening.
Okay, so I wanted to establish that, you know, for the regular Android or the smartphone user who listens or spends time listening to music and other things on their phone. So you mentioned something about 85 decibel being the safe level of listening or volume, right?
Less than 85 decibel or 80
Less than.
decibel. Yes.
And for the smartphones, it is 137, you said?
Their range of calibration is around 80 to 136 or above. And that's their normal level for smartphones. Okay. And that is for you to have a safe hearing, you should not go anything above 80 to 85. That's the maximum for normal hearing. But anything above that is risky. And that's what most of our smartphones are being made.
Okay, so I wanted to ask that so that the regular person who has no idea of what decibel is or doesn't have the idea or the definition of all those things, how to look out for them, how do they go to their phones and know that this is the volume at which I should listen to my songs or my sounds on the phone? Is it, say, on a level of 1 to 10, where should the volume be?
No, you know, the problem is now the manufacturers of these smartphones, because they are just smartphones. So for an individual, for example, now, you should just know, of course, you can't listen to anything loud. So the problem has to be, these are manufacturers They are the ones, of course, they have to have a safe threshold when they are manufacturing these gadgets. You know, like a warning, of course, then maybe there's, for example, there should be like a warning device, or there's an app that will actually, oh, you're already going above the normal level. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Noisy. So it's down for them when they are manufacturing these gadgets. They are the only ones that will know how, maybe like the legislative law or things that can actually say, you have to maybe put, for it's not like saying tobacco smoking is dangerous to health, even though they want to sell, but at a time you have to actually put that in so that anyone going above a particular the safe threshold, maybe there'll be an alert, there'll be an alarm, or there's like going to be a gadget on those things. For an individual, you won't actually know when you've gone above. It's only to appeal that don't listen to anything loud that your neighbor, of course, will start hearing or something. So it's just an, but most of these things we can't actually scale. It's only the manufacturing industries. They will have like some software that immediately you are approaching the dangerous threshold. Maybe there's an alarm or something or something just auto regulate the volume of the softwares. Not what an individual will actually be able to do.
Okay. I think I remember that actually. I've seen that on my phone many times where it will tell me you are exceeding this. Do you still want to go ahead or something like that? I have seen that many times. And the truth is I have ignored. Okay, so I am guilty of that and I need to change. And for somebody who's listening, anytime you see that notification from your phone, please do not ignore and do not click on the do not remind me later. There is also that tendency for you to do that. Just reduce it for the sake of your long-term hearing. That's very important. Now let's talk about the other noise that are around that we do not have control over. How can we protect ourselves? We're talking about the noise from generating sets. We're talking about the cars on the road, the ones from the religious houses, the event. How can we protect ourselves or mitigate the risk that are associated with this?
You know, like I said, there is how do I put it? Usually, one, let's talk of event centers.
Okay.
Another major cause of hearing loss. And of course, then if actually maybe you have advocacy on them, sitting arrangements, when you're at venues, actually maybe having to regulate the event noise. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then if they're actually educated, because I'm sure maybe, of course, I know most of us, we love loud music, or maybe when at the risk of just sitting there in one place and damaging your hair, I'm sure those ones will be able to actually get some control. Of course, the issue of generator around, with the issue of no light, and we put all our, everything, everyone has to use a gen. Of course, those again, we go back to the manufacturing industry, having the generator that are not noisy, because I know that the sounds are being regulated. That could actually help there. At the same time, of course, we have to appeal to the government, also the the electrical, companies, the issue of having lights. Because, for example, if a lot of people have lights around, people will usually not use the gen. Because that's where the problem is starting. The issue of using generators is because there's no power supply. So people have to just look for alternative to get light. Do you understand? And of course, so majorly, of course, that will have to do maybe issue of the community. Of course, they have to educate them that when you want to buy generators, please buy the one that have the sound modulations that are not that noisy, noisy to use. And, that's really what we need to do. The noise pollution also, when we are driving, of course, there's a lot of advocacy, is honning on the road. Of course, a lot of education to most of our people. So most of the thing that was maybe a continuous program, it continues and maybe like a health talks, people going around. And of course, there have to be some legislative law against this. If not, but I know we will not comply. Because you will not comply. So, but for when there maybe, of course, maybe at times, maybe some punitive actions against people. If you do this, if you do that, that will actually help us also.
That's very true. Looks like this thing is intertwined. Everybody is involved, not just the ones in the healthcare sector. But then the fact that you just mentioned the power distribution companies and the manufacturers too, they are all involved because we are all in this together. So please and please, if you're listening and there is a decision maker, somebody who's listening, or you feel like somebody that is in charge of making policies that affect us is listening, you can just tell them to listen in or share the YouTube link with them. Help us, please. We all do not want to go deaf. help us. We are crying and we are appealing and of course educating and sensitizing the public that we can all hear for life. All we just have to do is listen with care. My guest is Dr. Saadat Yahaya. She's a consultant ENT surgeon, and this is Breakfast in Bed. We'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we'll give up that prevention tips and how to care for your ear generally. This is Smooth 98.1. We're almost out of time, so when we come back, we'll just wrap up with general care for the ear.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted us to focus on those the noise exposure, since that's the theme. There is a lot we can talk about on hearing, but that's what we can just focus on for now.
That's simple, so that if we start taking our terminologies, nobody will understand anything.
True.
Yeah.
You have the recipe. What will you make? Cook the difference. At Chipcard, you'll find everything you need and more, even on a tight budget.
Yes.
The new one couple deal of at 899 naira and save even more on Kellogg's 300-gram cookies at 999 naira 99 kobo. Prices valid to the 6th of March 2022. Shoppers, no prices you can trust always.
Are we coming back in?
Okay. I will just summarize.
For it to feel good, make sure that the volume are safe enough. And of course, you do not want to impair your hearing ability in the long run by listening to things, music generally, at very loud volume. And yes, we have already established the fact that there are in the mobile devices that you have, you just have to listen to the warnings that the manufacturers have embedded inside it. So whenever you get that notification telling you this thing you're listening to is too loud, turn down the volume. Do not ignore, because it is for your health. On WhatsApp, Cisco Delgado says, good morning, doctor. All mobile devices have such limits, warning users not to exceed the volume of the sound. It depends on the user. And then he further says, if you want to experience noise, as you said, visit Alaba Market. It's so crazy, always crazy. Sadly, we just have to continue with the sensitization and the education so that people can adhere, and for the better part, or for everybody, for the sake of everybody, we are all in this together. We cannot run, we cannot be walking around with earmuffs, so we just have to help each other. Now to the do's and don'ts of ear care. Dr. Saadat, what are some of the things that we should be aware of when it concerns caring for our ears?
Okay, there is something important I want to just raise. The issue of this is not just something, there are different degrees of hearing loss. One, exposure to sudden loud noise, even if it's just once, can destroy someone's hearing at once. It's not like maybe bomb or a gunshot. So it's not just a noise around. That sudden loud noise can actually destroy that hearing for life. Exposure to noise at high intensity for short or long period can destroy the ear. Exposure to noise at lower over a long duration of time can actually destroy the ear. The highest safe exposure level is 85 decibel maximum over 8 hours. And many of these are device, of course, the volume are 75 decibel to 135. So it's not just, I'm not in a disco hall, I don't go to event centers. We have to watch it. The frequency, the consistency, the duration at which we're exposed to this noise actually determines. And of course, this prevention will have to be on a personal level, on a manufacturers level, on the event centers owners, and then globally the government, the NGO. So on a personal level, please, we have to have safe listening habits. Should include, we should keep leisure noise less than 80 decibel. Always keeping the volume down as much as possible. We should limit time spent on noisy activities. Maximum duration should not exceed 40 hours per week. Reduce duration of sound allowance for week once inevitable exposure has occurred or other risk factors are present. We should keep distance from the sound source. And we should also practice habit listening breaks. Use earphones more than 1 hour per day. And then we should do a periodic hair check. That's what on the personal level. On the manufacturer level, manufacturers of personal listening should include warning on the device. They should build in app into device that measures the sound allowed use. Should have password protected parent control of volume setting. Should have general information on safe listening. Should have app capable of self-hearing screen. Should have app capable of measuring environmental noise. And also on the best advocacy, having to explain to them, please don't go beyond the sound and all that. The proper sitting arrangements. You should regulate duration of the event, measure noise level and regulate the noise level. Need to practice hair sparing break during events, and then to bring in innovations that will avoid noise exposure. And then, of course, to our health workers, NGO, of course, advocacy will keep, educating our people. And then, of course, there has to be strengthening legislations and practice, of course, in primary, secondary, and tertiary care centers so that people actually avoid this. They know it and they know when to stay away from this noise we're actually talking about. And just like the team for this year, to hear for life, you have to listen with care.
That's right. To hear for life, you have to listen with care. Thank you so much, Dr. Yahaya. Now, for somebody who's listening, you're wondering, well, this is not such a comprehensive conversation on hearing loss. Yes, we are focusing on just the noise and the exposure to sudden noises, the gradual noise and all of that, because they have been implicated as one of the major causes of hearing loss. But we have talked about this before here on Breakfast in Bed. So what you can go do is go to our YouTube channel, search for Soul Food 981, hashtag soulfood981 hearing loss. That's the conversation. We had about 45 minutes with Dr. Saadat. We talked about different degrees of hearing loss and how they happen. In fact, some medication, I remember quite all right, that she said some medications can also knock out your hearing, and some of them are drugs that are abused. So there is a whole lot on that. You should go to our YouTube channel, search for hashtag soulfood981 hearing loss, and you'll find that on our YouTube channel. That's one of the reasons you should be subscribed so that you do not miss out anything that we have. But for today, we are done. Thank you, Dr. Saadat. Always a pleasure. I look forward to another of this with you.
Thank you. Have a good day. See you next time.
Thank you, and you too.
Bye.
Bye. All right, Lagos, we are not done because I still have more to give you. Now, 8:40 is for the kids, where they'll join me for the Kiddies Game Show for kids between 6 to 15 years of age. And afterwards, 9 o'clock, I do have my special guest. We will be talking about entertainment, music, of course, playing some games in between and just having fun generally on the Smooth Explorer. You know how we do it. In the middle of all of that, you can keep up with us across all social media platforms using the hashtag Breakfast in Bed 981, or you can be a part of it by sending your WhatsApp message to 0809-444-0981. The call line is 01-448-9981. Coming from a prodigy, Michaela, is this one titled Dreamer. Thank you.
Once upon a time